release build for Overwatch 2 and a preview event with other creators, and I can confidently say Overwatch 2 is not a sequel. At
No,
least
it doesn't feel like it.
not yet. On one hand, the game is extremely high quality. The new visuals, the audio, the animations, art, skins, voice, the list goes on. Everything in Overwatch 2 has that absurd level of Blizzard polish that feels so good. And on top of that, the new gameplay direction of Overwatch 2 is a massive improvement over the original. Combat has fewer ultimates, fewer shields, less CC, and more solo carry potential. These
Yeah.
are all core design changes in line with a new direction and nudges the game closer to its roots as an FPS shooter rather than the shield shooting simulator it had become. But all of this feels like a hollow shell, a fresh coat of paint that cannot possibly make up for the fact that this sequel has an extremely underwhelming amount of new content and it was supposed to be so much more.
See, that's my biggest issue with, I guess, the Overwatch 2 is that there's just overall there's less features. And I think the golden rule for a sequel is have an equal amount of features that give you different things or have more features. Because you're already building upon something that's already there. You're just adding a bit to it. It's not like you're making it from the ground up. You're not creating a new graphics engine. I will say the sound of Overwatch 2 sounds very different, but I mean you're not creating new maps from scratch. You're not creating too many new characters from scratch, and the characters you are creating, you already have like an artistic style to choose from. You already have, I'm pretty sure they have like body models ready to go. I mean, it's like that's my biggest issue. I mean, it's a fun game, but yeah.
After waiting for almost 3 years, I log into Overwatch 2 and we somehow ended up with 3 new characters, a new game mode, and a handful of maps that's now launching as an early access live service title. Clearly, this is not the sequel Blizzard had in mind when Overwatch 2 was announced back in 2019. It's a drastic shift for Blizzard, a company that once made its name by ruthlessly delaying all of its games and updates until they were ready. What's surprising is that according to interviews, the team has only actually been working on this version of PvP Overwatch 2 for just over a year. Before that, the majority of its time went into building out the PvE side of the game instead.
So PvE was only worked on for the new rework, the new hero reworks. I'm assuming that's what they mean. That seems like it's only been in development for like a year. But the PvE mode was in development for 3.5 years, as the comment said earlier.
In an interview with Tech Radar, Aaron Keller said, "When we originally made the decision to start focusing on Overwatch 2, it really made it so that both parts of the game had to be released at the same time. And as we were iterating more and more in some of the more innovative gameplay for the PvE side of Overwatch 2, it meant that it was going to take longer for PvP features to go public." Later on, he says, "So we made this big switch. It has been a really fast-paced year where we had to do a lot of things to turn this massive ship that was going in one direction to go in another direction in order for us to be able to fulfill one of our key values for the game, which is to be able to continually update it."
Man, that's crazy because what you put yourself in a position where you can't really so the game consisted of 2 parts, which is the live version of it and then the PvE version, which is like quote unquote the story mode, which I did want at the beginning of Overwatch 1. But the story mode's also kind of weird because like there's so many shorts and comics and things that have been developed that, I mean, it's not the first game that's had like its story told across various forms of media. I mean, you can look at Halo, I mean, Final Fantasy to an extent, Kingdom Hearts is also a manga. But with Overwatch, it feels like most of the story was being told outside of the game, and then the game was referencing whatever that story was. So it just feels a little weird, the shift to a story. But I don't know, maybe they wanted to do something like the Sony-based story games.
It's very surprising they've only really focused on the PvP side of the game for just over a year, but it fits with the amount of content that's in the game. The real question here is, why has PvE taken 3+ years of developer time? What exactly have they been working on? In order to answer those questions, I dove into some old developer interviews and streams from 2019 onward to try and figure out what the original vision of Overwatch 2 was before business realities took over and forced Team 4 into this early access launch.
So it was before 2019, which this makes me feel like COVID accelerated some of these problems. But I don't know. Like I'm also just speculating so much on top of this video that's also speculating. So it's like a a speculation thon. But good on Seagull for being a detective. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
According to Aaron Keller in late 2019, Overwatch 2 was built for those who loved Overwatch but didn't want to play a competitive FPS game.
Me,
Overwatch
that's
2
me.
is going to fulfill that for them, where there's this game that people that don't play competitive shooters can jump into. They're going to be able to play the co-op side of Overwatch 2 as their main lifestyle game.
Main lifestyle game, dude. I do not like that verbiage. I think my main lifestyle game right now is Apex Legends, but I do not like that verbiage. That's very sounds corporate and gross.
He elaborated later, saying that there is so much to that side of the game, from this big story experience to this really deep progression system as they play through hero missions. It's this massive tail to the game where people can play for years if they want to. And for us, as we started talking about the game in those terms, it couldn't really be anything but a sequel.
Once again, that part's also kind of weird because like outside of speedruns, I don't know many people that replay story-based games over and over year after year unless it's like some kind of a tradition. Like, you know, I love Metal Gear. I played Metal Gear Solid 5 twice in its entirety. But I don't see myself picking it up every year and playing through it all again.
He also said later down in the interview that a lead designer on World of Warcraft was spearheading their progression system for Overwatch 2.
Oh.
This interview was never really well publicized, I think, because most of the general gaming community viewed Overwatch 2 as a simple PvE story campaign. But according to
that's
this
what I
interview,
thought.
the real plan was much more ambitious. Honestly, it just sounds like they weren't building out a campaign, but also a full PvE endgame so that people could play PvE Overwatch 2 as their main game.
Oh, they wanted to make a Destiny. Okay. They wanted to make like an actual Destiny where you do raids together and go on like get loot.
It would be more than a year after this interview before we heard from the Overwatch team again, but we finally got to look at Overwatch 2's gameplay at BlizzCon Online in 2021. Overwatch 2 ended up looking very similar to horde shooters like Vermintide or Left 4 Dead. It had tons of random trash units, lots of objectives, a wide variety of special unit types.
Yo, look at these enemies. You got like a giant rhinoceros gorilla. Got flying mechs. Different weapons. Like this is wild. This is cool because this would build out more of the Omnic universe. Because I don't understand what the Omnic verse is for the most part. Like the Omnic stuff in Overwatch, like because I don't keep up with the comics or the animated shorts and stuff, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. Other than it's like sentient robots or rogue AI or something like
bomb
that.
units, swarming units, flying units, and even the stereotypical hook unit, which shows up in every horde shooter ever, but with the basis of Overwatch gameplay and Blizzard polish.
This looks cool.
It looks fantastic. They also covered progression systems. Hero missions were the main form of content you would play after the linear PvE story campaign. There were hundreds of them and tons of variations with a focus on replayability.
See, that makes sense because that would fit the what Overwatch is, which is Overwatch was a group of legendary individuals who were helping save parts of the world. This makes a lot of sense. This fits in with the game themes.
You would play these hero missions to level up your characters, which would give you more talents in order to create builds for your characters. They showed off one theoretical build for Soldier 76,
this is Destiny.
where his heal station followed him around, knocking back enemies, where he was effectively a snowplow. They also revealed the existence of damage types, like cold or electrical damage, with their own unique effects on enemies. And in a more recent interview,
I bet you, imagine if it was like Mortal Kombat 11 where you could take these online.
Aaron Keller confirmed that by leveling up, you can gain the ability to get equipment that you could use to become more powerful. Let's be clear. A game where you level up different characters, create builds, and obtain equipment to become more powerful in a cooperative, replayable PvE mode the developer said they want you to be able to play for years. How can this be anything other than the very first steps to building out a PvE live service game set in the Overwatch universe?
Yeah, or
This is
Destiny.
remarkably funny because of the origins of Overwatch. For those who don't know, Overwatch was spawned out of a canceled class-based MMO FPS called Titan. Blizzard tried making an MMO FPS work for
Nobody knows anything about Titan other than it was canceled. Blizzard has kept that shit on lockdown.
years, and after it was over, they turned around, they took some of the assets with a small team of around 40 to 60 people, and they spun out Overwatch in record time. Overwatch was one of the fastest games Blizzard ever made. It blew up and it became one of the most successful franchises for the company. They then took that success, abandoned the game, and immediately went back to try and make another PvE FPS game. It's truly absurd, and I respect it. It also makes sense because core Overwatch gameplay lends itself really well to PvE mechanics. We have tanks, healers, and DPS.
Yep.
Archetypes that Blizzard has a ton of experience with after 10 plus years of developing World of Warcraft. I could only imagine the incredible boss fights and missions those kinds of devs could create in the Overwatch universe.
Man, imagine having like an actual set piece with those big ass robots, like on that Russian stage where you can see the robot in the background. God, that'd be so cool.
Blizzard would have something truly unique in the space that plays perfectly into their strengths as a company. And according to the devs, there's a massive Overwatch audience that loves the universe but doesn't want to play a competitive shooter anyway. So what ended up happening to this crazy idea? According to Aaron Keller, PvE for Overwatch 2 is still what we've always envisioned for the game. There's a campaign, a AAA campaign, with a linear story that we're going to tell through it. And
That
there's
sounds so
also
cool.
a highly replayable mode with hero progression. But rather than keeping those until they're all finished at the same time and releasing them in a box, we would like to release those as part of our seasonal cadence for Overwatch 2.
See, that's where I disagree. Just release it all at once and then just build on it. Like releasing it sectionally, just it doesn't feel good. Like when Halo Infinite launched, like only the multiplayer launched, and you're like, oh man, this feels empty. And then like 2 or 3 months later, the story drops, and people don't like it nearly as much as they thought they would. And then you only have the multiplayer to go back to. Sorry, excuse me.
In other words, instead of playing an entire PvE campaign and going through the PvE in-game as it drops, it will likely be cut up and sold in seasonal battle passes. Even though Aaron Keller says it's the same vision, I'm personally going to have to see it to believe it. Telling compelling stories in a live service setting is extremely difficult. The only games that really come to mind that pull it off at a good pace are games like Final Fantasy XIV and Destiny. It's entirely possible Overwatch can do it as well, and I really hope they do. But it's also easy to look at this and assume the worst.
Like, I disagree with that, and I agree with it at the same time. I do think it's possible to tell a good story in like a seasonal based progression system. Like it's like releasing episodes, you know, or like a new season of TV. Like it's not hard, but you do have to focus on making sure those stories are good. You can replay old chapters as you keep on going.
That it's just going to end up as a weaker product because it has to fit in a modern live service game reality. Overall, I can't help but feel disappointed because it feels like the original vision for this game was so much bigger than that, and it deserves its own developer team and time.
The crazy thing is that they made so much fucking money off Overwatch 1. I don't see how they don't have the resources to do this. I guess
Bring that vision to
how much
fruition.
money does Bobby Kotick
Look at
need?
this Reddit AMA response from Jock.
For anyone that doesn't know, Bobby Kotick is the CEO of Activision.
No, Overwatch 2 senior hero designer. He said he can't speak for everyone, but for some insight into the hero design team, we've had a significant amount of time dedicated to creating the talent trees. For context, there are about 40 to 50 talents split into 3 trees per hero, and each of these trees has a few talents that are a similar complexity to creating a new ability for a hero. Heroes in Overwatch usually have 3 to 4 abilities and a weapon, so prototyping a new hero is actually faster than making the talents for one. There are 36 plus heroes to do that for, and then we've also got the PvP side with all the 5v5 rebalancing, hero reworks, and new hero development on top of that. Imagine what these devs could do if they weren't spread out across so many parts of the game and could just focus on PvE or PvP.
What's crazy is that just like that dev said, like, you know, having a skill tree allows you to kind of test out new abilities. You know what also be cool? If like let's say during different seasons, you would change out Soldier 76 into a different version of Soldier 76. I mean, I know some people would hate it, and you know, if you update your game too often, there's definitely a group of players that will leave. But it would be cool because then you could, or what if you could, like in Mortal Kombat, what if you have like three different variants of Soldier 76 that you could choose? Like, it's just, I'd love all that customization. That's awesome.
To be clear, I fully realize that it's entirely possible this theoretical Overwatch PV side of the game could have flopped. It could have been a total disaster to wait that long for the franchise and the business.
But I mean,
But
it
this is
made
Blizzard we're talking about. A
you have so
company
much
that made its
money.
name by ruthlessly delaying all of its games and updates until they were ready. And in a single year of focused development, they've
Okay, this Roadhog is trying way too hard to get this Genji. Just leave him alone. This Genji is bullying you with his abilities to jump and climb shit.
already done a fantastic job reworking the game around 5v5 and building out new characters while trying to keep balance
That's a scam.
in check. But unfortunately, I won't see the bulk of what the hero design team has worked on in Overwatch 2 because in the middle of development, Blizzard found itself at a crossroads. One road would have seen it stick with old school Blizzard philosophy where you release the game when everything was actually fully ready as a massively hyped PvP and PvE launch. But the problem was the industry shifted around Blizzard, leading more and more games down the other path. Games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, and Valorant all hit the FPS market year after year.
You know, it's like that old saying, capitalism breeds innovation. And it just doesn't. It just, you create copycats, you know, or you add your own thing, Overwatch, just stick to it.
Each of which was free to play and consistently releasing content. Blizzard decided to cut its losses, accept the fact that PV was taking too long, and turn the bus around.
This contextualizes so much of my feelings towards Overwatch 2.
It would retreat back to the core PvP player base as an early access free-to-play live service game and try to...
Also, I think we've been watching this video for like 15 minutes, but just a heads up, we are almost in the game. There's only 20 players ahead of us, so that's pretty rad.
Compete directly with everyone in the industry again. This would stop the bleeding for sure, finally get something out the door, and create some consistent revenue from those sweet, sweet skins and battle passes. But it also means giving up on the original vision for Overwatch 2, on the partial revival of that original Titan idea. And that's a hard pill to swallow after having come this far.
Oh, man.
I know there's no easy answer for Blizzard, and I understand the situation it's in as a company and as a business, even if it's one entirely of its own making. But as a player, all of these options are garbage. As someone walking into Overwatch 2's launch on October 4th, I see that early access tag, I notice the lack of content, and I can't help but wonder about that other road the
It's a
old
cash
Blizzard
grab.
might have taken, and how much more excited I would have been for a real sequel instead. Assuming, of course, that it would have ever launched at all. Thank you for watching.
Seagull, you are a great YouTuber. I'm gonna give you a like. Go read some of the comments though. Man, this was so well written, edited, and recorded. Yeah, top tier. I honestly hope that PV turns into a baggage title. Hold up, let's go to where that Roadhog was. No.
I'll see you. So what ended up happening to this crazy idea? According to Aaron Keller, fights and missions, those kinds of devs could create in the Overwatch universe. Blizzard
I'm gonna mute this for a second. I want to get to where the Roadhog is struggling. I think it's right here. Let's see. Let's get you right. We're gonna put 0. Let's just keep on going a little bit more. I want to time tag it. Or is it right here? Yeah, right here. 750. No. Oh, I don't know where it is. I don't know where it is. I lost it. Okay, cool. I'm not gonna be able to do this. I'm not focused enough. I feel like it's right here. Right here. I'm gonna go back. Oh. It's gotta be right here, right? Okay, he kills this Roadhog. And the Genji, where's the Genji? Yeah, okay, right here. 859. 08 59. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was a good video. Good job, Seagull. Let's see. It's amazing to listen to such well thought release of Overwatch 2 when compared to like PC gamers articles. They have been okay. Seagull pulls up once a year on YouTube and makes a more well put together video than half of Overwatch YouTubers. He used to be an Overwatch YouTuber. Yeah. No. Let's see. 3 days ago, a year. Yeah, he's right, man. He puts out 2 videos a year. Holy shit. Yeah, he used to do so much. God damn, that's a good video, Seagull. He's been doing like competitive shooters for the most. It's broken, yeah. His Overwatch content pops off though. It gets so much views. We're gonna subscribe to him. I'm pretty sure I used to be subscribed to him, and I think I unsubscribed when he's just putting out too much Overwatch content. But hey, it is what it is, right?